In this video, I'll address our PFA templates. First and foremost, PFA templates are entirely separate from NinjaTrader chart templates, and they will not impact one another in any way. In order to improve the performance of our software, we developed our own mechanism for storing templates as well as to store your inputs for the PFA Zone suite. This gives us the ability to store and save them much faster, and not only that, but we can transfer them from chart to chart without having to make additional settings changes each time we open a new chart. First, let's go ahead and touch on how our PFA templates are actually functioning in the back end. Every chart or tab as well, if you notice down at the bottom of my screen, we have multiple tabs, all contained within one singular chart. However, for template purposes, each tab is going to be treated as a separate chart. This allows us to store settings per tab and be able to make alterations to each of those. We can then save them also by the tab in itself. Let's go ahead and get started by actually loading the indicator directly onto the chart. I'm going to right-click the chart. I'm going to select the indicators option. Alternatively, I could simply click the indicators icon near the top of the chart. And there we're going to get the indicators pop-up dialog box. I'm going to scroll down, find the PFA Zone suite. I can double-click or simply left-click once to select, and then click the Add button. And if you notice here, the PFA has indeed been added to the configured column. To the right, in the Properties section, notice we've essentially removed all of the settings from here as they're no longer needed. Those could be found in our User Inputs menu, conveniently located in the Quick Access menu. However, there are a couple of options here. When we go to initially load the indicator on any chart or tab for that matter, we're going to have options here, the first of which is the template. This template is not a NinjaTrader chart template, it is indeed a PFA template. If I select the drop-down option, I'll notice that there are 3 available templates. We may make changes to this from time to time. However, as of now, we have a default as well as an LTF and an STF. For this video purposes, I'm going to left-click my PFA STF XML. This is going to load the PFA settings in which has been saved to this particular template. These templates will all come pre-installed with the PFA Zone Suite, so there's really nothing you need to do, and these will already be available. Of course, you can develop your own templates at any time, or indeed make changes to the ones that are readily available. I'm going to now move down, and I'm going to left-click OK. What my expectation here is, I'm going to load the pre-installed template of PFA STF, in which was provided with the software in itself, and I expect to see all of the settings exactly as they are saved in that template. When I left-click OK, you can see the software is indeed loaded as expected. I'm going to now move up and make an alteration. This is where the PFA templates really come in handy. As I move up, I'm going to make any alteration. It really doesn't matter. These are on the fly. So if I select the Tools menu, I go down, hover over altitude, and for all intents and purposes make a single change, that is to show the grid. I have now made an alteration not to my template, but to this chart alone. With the PFA templates, we have the ability to save this only to this specific chart. However, I could go to another tab and or another chart, load my PFA STF template, and the altitude grid would not be there, simply because we never saved it to the template. Try to think of temporary templates for each chart. Any on-the-fly setting that is indeed made will remain for that chart, but it will not be saved to the template unless we actually do so. Let's go ahead and cover that now. I'm going to hover my mouse over the User Inputs menu. I'm going to left-click. There you can see our inputs control window pop up, and you can see, as we said earlier in the presentation, we would be circling back to this, a couple of different options there. Number 1, save as template, moving from left to right. The next one we have is load template. So any changes that were made to our template or need to be made, we can go ahead and adjust those, whether it's from the quick access menu or the settings here in our categories. And when we're done with that, If we would like for that particular change to be implemented to every chart that particular template is loaded to, we can go ahead and save that as our template. In this case, we decided to enable the altitude grid. Here, if we left click the grid itself, we can see that that is indeed enabled. Now I can go up and left click Save as Template. And when I do so, it's going to ask me, what would you like to name the template? Well, as you can see, there's nothing there now. However, if I left click that drop down menu, you will see the 3 items in which we have pre-installed for you: the PFA default, LTF, as well as STF. In this case, as we are using the PFA STF, if I've made that change and wish for it to be applicable to all other charts anytime this template is loaded, I can left click PFA STF, left click Save, and that will indeed overwrite this template. Now, if I close this out and I open a new chart with no software on it, I could indeed load the indicator, but this time when I load the indicator, it is going to have the altitude grid enabled if I select the PFA STF template. In the event we've made a change that perhaps we don't like or we're not happy with, or maybe even we're a little bit confused and we don't remember what our original settings were, we've implemented an option to resolve that as well. If I hover my mouse over the tools icon here, I'm going to left click, and I'm going to navigate all the way to the bottom of this drop down menu. There's an option there to reset the template. If I left click Reset Template, this is indeed going to alter all of the temporary settings for this individual chart, and it's actually going to convert them back to their original state. Therefore, we now have the ability to remove all of those temporary changes that we've made and reset the chart as expected. I would like to note that in my opinion, this will come in handy probably more often than you may realize. For all intents and purposes, we may make an alteration to a color scheme that we're not extremely happy with. We may make an alteration to the market structure or a time frame setting, etc. There are a lot of settings here, so making changes to a plethora of settings can be rather hard to remember, especially if you're trying to revert back to its original state. So again, just an opinion, but I believe you'll come to find that this is a very useful option. And finally, there's one additional item that I want to touch on before concluding our templates video. The PFA templates, as mentioned earlier, are completely and entirely separate from NinjaTrader chart templates. Therefore, they will have no impact on the chart itself. As you can see here, we have a white background, we have access colors, we have crosshair colors. There are many properties that go into the chart itself. As I just mentioned moments ago, the PFA templates will have no impact on that. Once you've made all the changes that you desire, I would encourage you to go ahead and save that template in the PFA user inputs menu. So I'm going to left click once more. And when I get that dialog box there, I just want to make all of the corresponding changes. As I've mentioned, go ahead and left click Save as Template, save my PFA Zone Suite template. I would also encourage you to save it to a unique name. In other words, don't overwrite the templates that we've pre-installed. Just in the event that you ever want to revert back to that, you'll still have that template. So once we've made this change or changes, and we've also saved that template, at this time, I would encourage you to go ahead and save your chart template as well. We can do that by right-clicking anywhere within the NinjaTrader chart. I can hover my mouse over templates, and then I can simply select Save As by left-clicking. This is going to also save the PFA Zone Suite onto the chart with all of your corresponding properties, such as background color, access, all of those that I just mentioned moments ago. It is going to save those. However, the PFA Zone Suite templates will indeed override anything having to do with the PFA Zone Suite settings alone.